Hello everyone. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at an article from In These Times. This was published on June 11th. It's written by Moshe Z. Marvit. Basically, the left is freaking the fuck out because unions are losing their ability to extort money from people who work at a place that they happen to supposedly represent. You know, it's mob tactics, basically saying, you work here, I supposedly represent you, pay me. That's mob type shit. And they got a problem with someone saying, no, fuck you, I ain't paying, and taking it to court. Anyway, get ready for Janus 2.0, which could devastate labor more than the first. See, they're really freaking out about this. On June 27, 2018, the Supreme Court issued its ruling in Janus v. AFS CME, which radically changed established constitutional interpretation to make it a violation of the First Amendment for public sector unions to collect fair share fees. So basically, extorting union dues. All right? You should have the right to go and work at a place and decide whether or not you want to join the union, period. End of story. If you don't want to join it, you shouldn't be compelled to. And if you don't want to join it, you shouldn't be compelled to still fucking pay, which is what they want. If you say fuck you to the union, they still want their money. And this upsets the fucking left and the progressives and all that because they're being told, no, you ain't taking my hard-earned money for shit that you don't do for me because you don't fucking represent me or my views. And that's how the progressives and the left, you know, how they get their money is because of this extortion that takes place. Because unions are some of the largest contributors to political parties. And it just so happens that when I say political parties, I mean Democrats. These fees are equivalent to the portion of union dues that are germane to collective bargaining. Bullshit. The plaintiff in the case was Mark Janus, a child support specialist with the Illinois Department of Health Care and Family Services, who objected to paying $23.48 in fair share fees per pay period to AFS CME, the union that represented him and his coworkers. Well, it didn't represent him, number one, and number two, it was about paying the union dues, period. And the court ruled that he didn't have to pay the fucking union dues themselves, which includes that $23 and change. But you see, you're a dishonest piece of shit. Backing Janus was a coterie of anti-union groups headed by the National Right to Work Legal Defense Foundation, which has spent decades attacking labor. No, it has made it so that if you want to, as an individual, go into a fucking company, you shouldn't have to be compelled to pay fucking union dues even if you don't take part in the union. And you shouldn't have a situation where the union says that they represent you when they don't. Despite this stinging loss before the Supreme Court, many unions have prepared for this possibility and laid the groundwork to help mitigate the damages. The result was that, at least in the short term, the case that was intended to serve as a major body blow to labor appears to have been a rejuvenating effect. Bullshit! They're still reeling from that. They're still fucking trying to recover. Who the hell are you kidding, you little commie fuck? For many, it seemed like the Janus case was over. Mark Janus, the lead plaintiff, had left his state job and went to work for the Anti-Union Liberty Justice Center, which helped represent Janus before the Supreme Court, and those entire workers' rights platforms consists of workers suing unions to recover fair share fees. No, to recover their fucking union dues because they've been forced to fucking pay them when they shouldn't be compelled to pay them. It's more than just those those whatever fucking stupid fees, the fair share fees. Janus was gone. Fair share fees in the public sector were gone, and unions became better at membership engagement, such as they didn't see the free rider tidal wave that many had feared. Oh, bullshit. Oh, yeah, right. This really drove more people to the union. No, it drove more people away from the union because they said, why the fuck am I going to pay you? I don't have to pay you. Fuck off and die. Who the hell are you kidding? Now Mark Janus is back before the Supreme Court, asking to make their 2018 decision retroactive and force public sector unions to refund much of the fair share fees they collected in recent years, which I love that term fair share. How is it fair when you're not even taking part in the union for them to take money from you and to claim they represent you? That's not fair. If the court agrees to hear the case and sides with Janus again, it could cost organized labor many millions of dollars. Yeah, that they fucking extorted from those people they supposedly represent that don't want them to. Holy shit. Janus's case is being brought under the Civil Rights Act of 1871, or Section 1983 as it is more commonly called, which allows people to sue state actors for constitutional violations. Ooh, you don't like that, do you? The typical subject of such lawsuits includes such issues as excessive use of force by police, cruel and unusual punishment towards prisoners, and violations of public employees' First Amendment rights. And you really don't like that. Because if the union doesn't represent them and they're forced to pay the union, and the union says they speak for them, that violates their First Amendment rights. In rare instances, usually when a private creditor uses state procedure to attach a debtor's assets in violation of due process, a private actor can be found to be engaging in state action and sued under Section 1983 for violating constitutional rights. Therefore, AFS, CME, and other public sector unions could be sued for collecting fair share fees under state law, which a 5-4 majority of the Supreme Court found in the 2018 Janus case was a violation of the First Amendment. So, okay, yeah, they've been violating the First Amendment. They've been collecting those for years. Yeah, they should possibly, get stuck with paying retroactively. I would have no problem with that, the money that they took. However, what makes this second Janus case truly bizarre is that the Supreme Court has stated, and every court has agreed, that there's a good faith defense for private parties being sued under Section 1983. But they represent a public fucking union. They represent public employees, which would mean that they work towards on the part to the state. But hey, whatever. Sheldon Ahmad, emeritus professor at Chicago Kent College of Law and an expert on Section 1983, says that the good faith defense grew out a simple matter of public policy and private parties follow the law rather than act contrary to it. With regard to public sector fair share fees, the unions relied on decades-old state law that was passed pursuant to a 1977 Supreme Court decision that treated fair share fees as constitutional, which was wrongfully decided because they're not constitutional. You're being told you have to pay me. That's fucking mobster fucking shit. I don't understand how that is remotely constitutional when it's extortion. That if you want to work this job, you got to pay me. Janus is arguing here that Justice Alito and several other conservative justices voiced their discomfort with the public sector fair share fees over the past few years, so unions should have been on notice that the law was problematic. But the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals in this case rebuked this idea, stating, "The rule of law requires that parties abide by and be able to rely on what the law is, rather than what readers of tea leaves predict that it might be there in the future." But see, here's the thing. It was already ruled. Going by the previous fucking ruling, this shit is fucking shady. So they should have known that this shit was shady, and they should have made changes accordingly. And because they didn't, they're now getting sued, and they're trying to play like, oh, well, that shouldn't matter. They did. So what if they were, had a fucking clue about what was going on, and then maybe they should have changed their ways? If they got the money, they should get to keep it. That's at least what this fucking scumbag's trying to say, pushing in this article. The trial court judge went even further, acknowledging the empty Supreme Court seat left by Senator Mitch McConnell's refusal to call a Senate vote for President Obama's nominee Merrick Garland, stating, "Had the general and/or presidential election resulted differently, the composition of the Supreme Court that decided the case may have well been different, leading to a different result. If ever there was a case for arguing that a party acted in good faith and following the widely accepted law, this is it." So now they're trying to basically blame Trump. Okay, it isn't the fact that, the Democrats and Obama tried to pull a fucking fast one in his last year when he's a lame duck fuck, when presidents generally, as an unwritten rule, have this gentleman's agreement where they won't nominate a fucking person for the Supreme Court when there's a year left, all right, and they're on their last term because, people are going to be having an election and they may be, by the will of the people and who they vote in, they'll get to decide who the Supreme Court justice is. If you look at history, that's what's happened in this country. But, when Obama gets in office and the Democrats want something, they completely fucking ignore history when it doesn't benefit their bullshit. Another strange facet of Janus's petition to the Supreme Court is that, though it claims to be attacking the good faith defense available to private parties under Section 1983, it does not cite any articles about the good faith defense. Instead, the only articles it cites concern the very different and problematic issues of qualified immunity which is available to state actors. Oh, you don't like that they're attacking qualified immunity? What's your problem with that? Qualified immunity was created by the courts to protect public actors from liability unless they violated clearly established statutory or constitutional rights that a reasonable person would have known. However, over the years, the courts interpreted the doctrine so broadly that it has become extremely difficult to win a lawsuit against police for extreme misconduct. Oh, so you got a problem with them using that? What's your issue with this? A recent investigation by Reuters describes in grisly detail how police killed a confused hospital patient with pneumonia who refused to return to his room, a man who suffered brain damage after being smashed to the ground by police, a bicyclist who was shot 17 times in a case of mistaken identity, and more were qualified immunity protected unlawful action by police. And more where? Okay. This doesn't have anything to do with this union situation. Why are you fucking talking about this? For years, there's been growing anger at the doctrine of qualified immunity because of the ways that it shields police officers, and since the murder of George Floyd by Minneapolis police, the drumbeat for reversal or reform of the doctrine has grown louder. Several justices have called for re-examination of qualified immunity, and there are currently 8 qualified immunity cases pending before the court. A bill has been introduced by a broad bipartisan group in the House to eliminate qualified immunity. Now it appears that Janus is trying to use the important issue of qualified immunity reform to get rid of the relatively rare good faith defense that unions are relying on. So basically, you're upset that they're going to use qualified immunity to say that you can't plead ignorance or stupidity. Are you seriously upset about that? If you have a problem with unions, trying to play stupid, being able to not play stupid, you got some serious fucking issues. On June 18th, the Supreme Court is scheduled to consider whether it will accept the second Janus case for review. Labor law professor Charlotte Gardner of the Seattle University School of Law says, I don't think there's any reason for the court to take this case. The lower courts have been unanimous in holding that there's a good faith defense. Absent a circuit split, the court would typically take this case only if it presented an especially important question, such as the constitutionality of a major federal program. And I just don't see a question that rises to this level here. Yes, because you're trying to claim that because you don't like the fact that the union fucking bullshit, the organizations that overwhelmingly support Democrats are under fucking attack by people who are sick of them claiming to represent them when they don't. Deal with it. However, Justice Alito, writing for the majority in the original Janus case, stated, it is hard to estimate how many billions of dollars have been taken from non-members and transferred to public sector unions in violation of the First Amendment. This sentiment was echoed by one of the judges on the Seventh Circuit panel who heard this case. The conservative majority of justices has shown that it is willing to accept cases where there's no split in the circuits and that it is willing to overturn established precedent if the result is to harm labor. This is not about harming labor. This is about the fact that you have a private individual who does not want the union to fucking represent them, extorting money from them and claiming they do. But you obviously have no fucking problem with that. You piece of shit. You scumbag, waste of space motherfucker. You soy boy bitch. Get a clue. If I earn the money and they don't represent me, I want that money in my fucking pocket. Why should it be in their pocket? They didn't do a fucking thing for me. And that's what this mentality is behind people standing up to them. But you don't like that. Janus too may represent such a case, but as Professor Garden stated concerning the windfall that unions are alleged to have received, if we really wanted to unwind union agency fees, we'd also have to think about what representative workers got in exchange for their agency fees. Suppose Janus's union, backed by agency fees, negotiated pay raises or better insurance benefits, etc., then enforced those contractual provisions through a grievance process. Assuming the union negotiated pay, benefits, etc., they were worth more than the amount of the union dues, then shouldn't we say that by Janus's logic, Janus received a windfall or at least got the benefits he paid for with his agency fees? No, because he could have went and negotiated himself on an individual basis, okay, showing that he works harder than those union pieces of shit, okay, that use the union to shield themselves and protect themselves from getting fired and shit, and got more money. You're a fucking scumbag. You are a fucking scumbag. Moshi, look at you. You are a soy boy fucking bitch. And you're supposedly an attorney? You clearly don't know the fucking law. What law school did you go to? Okay? Did you get your fucking law degree like Chris from fucking the TV show back in the day? Northern Exposure got his fucking, license to be a reverend, from the back of Rolling Stone fucking magazine? Because you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. You are literally trying to say, as a lawyer, it's okay for unions like mobster fucking scumbags to extort money from people they do not represent. That's like the mob protection fucking scheme. Jesus Christ, dude, you are a piece of shit. But of course, he's a fucking progressive scumbag who thinks that, people's money, whether they take part in the union or not, should go to the fucking union. Anyway, I've covered this well enough. I'm going to leave things here. If you liked this video, depending on where you are watching it, please give it an upvote or thumbs up. If you want to know when new content of mine hits the internet, don't forget to subscribe to one or more of my social media or video accounts listed here. Also, with YouTube, don't forget to ring that bell. You can find all of my video content on both BitChute and YouTube. This may not be the case with other places I upload to, but I will try to minimize this happening. You are always welcome to interact with me at any of these sites on the list, so feel free to do so. If you have anything you want me to cover in a video, when it comes to news or current events, send it right along to me. I will try to do my best to cover it. As always, thank you for watching.